Cofield, 52 degrees, cloudy, a little rain, and cooler. Will be 33 degrees. Intervals of clouds and sunshine. And on Friday, the high will be 59, cool with sun and clouds. And finally, on Tuesday, the high will be 63 degrees and the low will be 43 degrees, cloudy. And Robert, you know, they have the sunrise today. The sun rose today at 7:18 a.m. and the sun sets tonight at 7:28 p.m. Moonrise, I didn't even know they had a moonrise, but moonrise today at 10:46 a.m. and the moon sets today. It does not set. Didn't know that. Did you know that? That moon set doesn't set sometimes. Sunset on Thursday will be 7:17 a.m. and sunrise, 7:17 a.m. and sunset on Thursday will be at 7:29 p.m.
From the applause section, Megan Pate of Fayetteville was named to the Fall 2017 Dean's List at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Sarah Mullen of Fort Bragg was named to the Fall 2017 Dean's List at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And Ainsley Welliver of Whispering Pines was named to the 2017 President of the State for heresy. In 1788, fire broke out in New Orleans on Good Friday, destroying 856 out of more than 1,100 structures. One death was reported. In 1925, Tennessee Governor Austin Peay signed the Butler Act, which prohibited the teaching of the theory of evolution in public schools. Tennessee repealed the law in 1967. In 1952, the Moondog Coronation Ball, considered the first rock and roll concert, took place at Cleveland Arena. And in 1981, Michael Donald, a black teenager in Mobile, Alabama, was abducted, tortured, and killed by members of the Ku Klux Klan. Birthdays for today: actress Kathleen Widows is 79, songwriter Chip Taylor of Wild Thing is 78, actor Timothy Dalton is 72, singer Ray Dorset of Mungo Jerry is 72, singer Eddie Money is 69, rock musician Conrad Lozano of Los Lobos is 67, R&B singer Russell Tompkins Jr. is 67, actress Sabrina LaVoe is 60, actor Gary Oldman is 60, actress Casey DePieva is 57, actor Matthew Broderick is 56, rock MC Maxim of Prodigy is 51, actress Laura Allen is 44. There are no birthdays listed for any of our listeners today, but it is your birthday. We wish you a happy birthday here at the Southeastern North Carolina Peter Reading Service. Daybreak, need to know. Free shred event. H&R Block is hosting a free shred event Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon in Fayetteville and Lumberton. Participants may bring one box of personal information to be shredded. The Fayetteville location is Cross Point Shopping Center on 5075 Morganton Road, Suite 5B. The Lumberton location is at 3555 Fayetteville Road. Community meeting. Harnett County is hosting a community meeting March 29th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. where officials will provide an update on possible plans for the former Shawtown school site and give residents an opportunity to ask questions and provide feedback. The meeting will be at the Shawtown Community Building on 28 Bethea Road in Willington. For more information, call 893-7555. Lunch and lecture. The Sand Hills Women's Exchange will host its next lunch and lecture series Thursday. The guest speaker will be Jan LaShule, co-founder of the Sand Hills Farm to Table Cooperative. Seats are limited. Call 295-4677 to reserve a spot or stop by the exchange at 15 Azalea Road in Pinehurst. Tickets are $25. The lecture is at 10:30 a.m. followed by lunch, and proceeds go to the upkeep of the 1810 Historical Cabin. Lip Sync Showdown. The Lip Sync Showdown, a fundraiser for the Child Advocacy Center, is Saturday at the Crown Center Ballroom. The social hour begins at 6 p.m. The show starts at 7. Tickets are $50 per person for standard table seating and $75 per person for VIP table seating. Tickets are available at capefeartix.com or at the Crown box office. For more information, go to cacfayync.org. We want to hear from you. Please submit your events in writing at least 10 days in advance. Email calendar at fayobserver.com or fax complete details to 486-3545. For questions, you can call 486-3500. Live wire by the Observer staff. Rough roads draw the ire of Fayetteville drivers. Nancy McCleary writes, is the county or state going to repave Turnbull Road located east of Fayetteville? It has been bad since it was paved years ago. It is not good on the front end of a car or a truck. It's a real rough road all the way down. This comes from AV of Fayetteville, and Nancy McCleary answers, good news. Andrew Barksdale, a spokesman for the North Carolina Department of Transportation, says improvements are coming. Perhaps not as quickly as drivers would like, but be patient. We are going to award a repaving contract this spring, Barksdale said. This is one of the roads that will be included in the scope of work. The project should be completed by the end of 2019. RB of Fayetteville writes, what do we have to do to get the railroad crossing at West Russell Street and Wellington Road repaired? They repaired other places, but not this one. It is bad. And Monica Venatuali answers, City spokesman Nathan Waugh said Railroad Company, CSX Transportation, is responsible for repairing the railroad crossing at Russell and Old Wellington Road. Waugh said the company can be reached at its toll-free number, 877-TEL-CSX. That's 877-835-5279. Livewire seeks to answer questions of general interest and consumer topics. Initials are used to identify questioners when names are given. Contact Livewire at fayobserver.com or by calling 486-3516. Public Safety in Cumberland County arrest Rashawn DeLone Wilkins, 30 of the 6400 block of Yadkin Road, was charged Tuesday with breaking and entering, larceny, and possessing stolen property. The bill was set at $10,000. Crystal Irene O'Brien, 32 of the 3200 block of Dunn Road in Eastover, was charged Tuesday with obtaining property by false pretense. The bill was set at $3,000. Jeffrey Thomas Jr., 31 of the 800 block of Durwood Drive, charged Tuesday with assault by strangulation. The bill was set at $10,000. Ernest Earl Brown, 29 of the 700 block of Mosswood Lane, was charged Tuesday with possessing cocaine, maintaining a drug vehicle or dwelling, and possessing cocaine with intent to sell and deliver. The bill was set at $20,000. Donnie Eugene McLaurin, 22 of the 1100 block of Torrey Drive, was charged Tuesday with possession of a firearm by a felon. The bill was set at $25,000. Tyrone Devon Beavers, 33 of the 1800 block of Cascade Street, was charged Tuesday with financial transaction card theft and misdemeanor credit card fraud. The bill was set at $2,000. Orlandis Dorneal McKnight, 27 of the 1900 block of Wordsworth Drive, was charged Monday with possession of firearm by a felon, possessing a controlled substance with intent to manufacture, and maintaining a drug dwelling or vehicle. The bill was set at $25,000. Marcus Auricchio McKnight, 30, 4000 block of Bluefield Drive, was reported at 12:20 a.m. on Tuesday. Electronics and a .45 caliber handgun were taken. Yadkin Road to China Garden at 6477 Yadkin Road was reported at 1:41 a.m. on Tuesday. Money was taken. The 1000 block of Strickland Bridge Road was reported at 8:54 p.m. on Monday. Items were taken but recovered. And Bellhaven Road was reported at 6:56 a.m. on Sunday. Television was taken. Robbery Half Moon Circle, an employee of Papa John's Pizza, reported at 10:40 p.m. on Sunday that he was robbed at gunpoint of money, food, and a cell phone on Half Moon Circle. Theft. Steeple Run Drive. David Lynn Robertson reported at 10:02 p.m. on Sunday that a semi-automatic pistol was missing from his home on Steeple Run Drive. Shooting. Airport Road. James Anderson Farrow reported at 8:16 p.m. on Sunday that someone fired shots into his home on Airport Road. No injuries were reported. Firefighter to administer naloxone. The Fayetteville Fire Emergency Management Department will start administering the opioid antidote naloxone on April 1st, and news release said. Decision was made after discussions between the fire department, Cape Fear Valley EMS, and senior city management over the last 6 months. The release said firefighters are currently conducting naloxone training. The Fayetteville Fire Emergency Department wants to help to mitigate and reduce opioid overdoses in our community, Fire Chief Ben Major said. Our first responders assist with a wide range of emergency response, and we are happy to use naloxone as another tool to help save lives, so those affected by opioid abuse get on the road to recovery. The Fayetteville Police Department had administered naloxone to reverse opioid overdoses for several years, the release said. Equal housing seminars coming in April. The Fayetteville Cumberland Human Relations Department is holding equal housing seminars in April as part of National Fair Housing Month, a news release said. The campaign includes efforts to end housing discrimination and is sponsored by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Spanish language seminar will be held in collaboration with Fayetteville's Fair Housing Board on April 18th from 6 to p.m. An English language seminar will be held April 25th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at City Hall on 433 Hay Street. All city and county residents who are interested in their rights involving renting, leasing, or buying housing should attend the workshops. To RSVP 433-1696 or email humanrelations@ci.fay.nc.us. Hope traffic stop leads to identity theft charges. Brayford. Traffic stop earlier this month resulted in the arrest Monday of one person accused of stealing personal information from 11 people, the Hope County Sheriff's Office said Tuesday. A second person is being sought, a Sheriff's Office release said. On March 10th, deputies stopped a vehicle on the 9800 block of Fayetteville Road, about a half mile west of Cumberland County line, about 2:05 p.m., the release said. 2 men were in the vehicle. Deputies found several documents in the vehicle and seized them. Investigators discovered that the documents contained identifiable personal information of 11 people, the release said, that had been used to open fraudulent accounts. The victims were identified as D.L. Estep, R.J. Estep, C.M. Brown, H. Brown, G. Gilmore, K. Capps, N. Lobby, J. Gerald, S. Gerald, L. Firmage, and H. Cease, the release said. Sherwood Levon Ferguson, 25, of the 200 block of McAllister Circle in Red Springs, was charged Monday with 11 counts of identity theft, 2 counts of traffic in stolen identities, and conspiracy. He turned himself into authorities after learning warrants had been issued, the release said. Bail was set at $75,000. Warrants for the same charges, as well as possession of more than 5 counterfeit instruments, had been issued for Robert Ashamd Johnson, 33, of Robinwood Apartments in Red Springs. Your library. English Conversation Club begins today by Holly Moore, Cumberland County Public Library. The library is known for offering book clubs and movie nights. This month, Spring Lake Library is starting its first English Conversation Club. This club will meet monthly and is designed for English speakers of varying levels. It offers a small group, zero judgment setting to practice speaking and listening in English. All meetings will be the third Wednesday of the month at Spring Lake Library, 101 Lake Tree Boulevard at 10:30 a.m. Join us today, April 18th and May 16th. Not interested in learning English? Whatever language living is on your bucket list, the library has a zero-cost solution. Mango, prepares learners for realistic conversations, and strengthens everyday communication skills. Mango offers lessons and activities in more than 70 languages. Es bien conocido que la biblioteca cubre grupos de lectura y noches de películas. Este mes la biblioteca de Spring Lake, 101 Lake Tree Boulevard, empezará su primer club de conversación en inglés. El club va a reunirse mensual y hasta diseñado para hablantes de inglés de cualquier nivel de competencia. Se ofrece un ambiente amable sin justo donde la gente puede practicar el inglés por practicar y escuchar. To learn more about this resource or programs at the library, go to cumberland.lib.nc.us or contact a library near you. Woman injured when shots fired into the home, Nancy McCleary, staff writer. 78-year-old woman was injured Monday when someone fired shots into her home in the Savoy Heights neighborhood off Robinson Street, Fayetteville police said. Yvonne Dalton, who lives on the 900 block of Rochester Drive, was not believed to be the intended target, said Sergeant Sean Streepay, police spokesman. Dalton and her husband Robert were inside their home about 9:40 p.m. Someone fired multiple shots, hitting the house and a vehicle belonging to the couple, Streepay said. Dalton was in her bedroom watching television when the shooting happened and was struck in the leg, Streepay said. Robert Dalton was not injured. Shell casings were recovered at the scene, Streepay said, but he did not know what type of weapon was used. Investigators believe the intended target was an acquaintance of the Daltons, he said. Yvonne Dalton was taken to Cape Fear Valley Medical Center for treatment of injuries that were not life-threatening, Streepay said. A small gray or silver car was seen in the area around the time of the shooting, but no arrests have been made. The Daltons lived near the G.B. Myers Recreation Center. Pedestrian hit, killed on NC 72 Lumberton. A Lumberton woman was killed Monday when she was hit by a vehicle walking on NC 72 in Robinson County, the Highway Patrol said. Lizzie Ann Locklear, 36 of the 200 block of Halsey Street, was walking east on the highway near Oak Grove Church Road, about 2 miles west of Lumberton, about 4:30 a.m., according to a report filed by Trooper S.C. Hunt. Locklear was in a roadway and was hit by an eastbound 2007 Lexus driven by Michelle McGirt Blue, 50 of Lumberton. Locklear was walking in the wrong direction, was wearing dark-colored clothing in an unlighted area, the report said. This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our address is P.O. Box 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina, 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please call us at area code 910-672-1600 or toll free at 1-844-709-5656. The video host is Robert King, and I am proud to serve you today. And we will continue with the Monday Fayetteville Observer in just a few moments. Young folks to kick butts for a healthier lifestyle by Bill Kirby Jr. You'll find their names signed to the hashtag Be the First pledge wall today at the Cumberland County Public Health Department. They are young people from Southview High School, William T. Brown Elementary, Boys and Girls Club of Cumberland County, and the YMCA, and all are pledging not to use tobacco products. As part of Kick Butts Day, a national initiative sponsored by the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. If we can help prevent our youth from smoking through initiatives like the Kick Butts Day event and other outreach activities, Dwayne Holder, Interim Health Director, says in a news release, then we can lower the percentage of adults in our county who smoke, creating a healthier and overall better community. Young folks are speaking up, and you need not look beyond students nationwide who are calling on national, state, and local leaders to make their schools safer in the aftermath of the Valentine's Day shooting at a South Florida high school where a 19-year-old former student armed with an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle massacred 14 students and 3 other school employees. For no further than Great Mills High School in St. Mary's County, Maryland, when a 17-year-old student with a handgun on Tuesday shot 2 fellow students before being killed by a school resource officer. Smoking, Holder says, can be a killer too. More than 3,200 younger than 18 years of age smoke their first cigarette each day, according to the Health Department release, and an estimated 2,100 youth and young adults who have been occasional smokers become daily cigarette smokers. It is great to see our youth passionate about improving the community, Holder says about the anti-tobacco initiative and bringing about change. 117 young people are taking part, 45 fifth-grade students from W.T. Brown Elementary, 30 from Southview High School, 27 ages 6 to 9 from the Boys and Girls Club, and 15 from the YMCA on Ramsey Street. This was the first year we have participated in Kick Butts Day, and we hope to be able to offer the opportunity to more schools in the future, says Marika Hoekman, an administrator with the County Public Health Department. We had programming scheduled at these schools and locations, and thought it would be great to include the Kick Butts Day information in addition to the scheduled programs. You can see for yourself where all of these 117 youngsters have signed the hashtag Be the First pledge by visiting the Health Department at 1235 Ramsey Street. But Holder and Hoekman are hoping all young people will take the pledge. The banner will be available at the Health Department throughout the rest of March, Hoekman says, for anyone who would like to sign the pledge. Smoking cessation isn't just for the young, as the Health Department offers classes for anyone trying to kick the habit. Just call 433-3890, or you can contact Quipline NC at 1-800-784-8669 at any hour. These young people, like so many who are speaking up about their lives, have no intentions of ever using tobacco products, so they are a leg up on the habit. By pledging to remain tobacco-free, Holder says, they're taking a step toward maintaining a healthy lifestyle for themselves and their peers. Bill Kirby Jr. can be reached by emailing bkirby@fayobserver.com or calling 486-3571. Craft brewers sue over distribution law by Emery P. Delicio, the Associated Press, Raleigh. Once a North Carolina brewer sells about enough beer to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool in any given year, state law says it must hand over distribution to another company. Attorneys for 2 growing craft breweries argued Tuesday that's unconstitutional. Lawyers for Old Mecklenburg Brewery and Noda Brewing Company filed a lawsuit in 2017 after battling for years to get state legislatures to change the beer distribution law, a change opposed by beer wholesalers who represent one of the state's most powerful political interest groups. The Charlotte breweries claim the law is unconstitutional because once they've sold more than 25,000 barrels in a year, they're required to give up pricing and sales control of their products to middlemen for virtually as long as their beers are brewed. Brewers hitting that limit must sell everything to a wholesaler, which then sells to stores or taverns. This is an economic protectionism scheme designed to enrich one private party at the expense of another private party, and that contributes millions of dollars in campaign contributions to the General Assembly, Attorney Andrew Ertschik said. The Political Action Committee, affiliated with the North Carolina Beer and Wine Wholesalers Association, gave more than $500,000 to political candidates of both parties, and parties themselves in the 5 years prior to this election year, according to state campaign finance records. Executives at the state's roughly 2 dozen wholesalers gave more. Officers of the wholesalers group, one of the state's oldest trade associations, did not respond to messages seeking comment. Perchick said the law violates constitutional provisions, allowing people to enjoy the fruit of their labors by barring breweries that become successful from choosing whether to keep delivering their own beer through their own networks or making a business decision to outsource that work to others. The state attorney defending the law said if the lawsuit isn't dismissed, a special panel of 3 judges should examine the constitutional challenge to the overall beer distribution law, not just how it applies to a few breweries. Superior Court Judge Alan Lador said he would consider the arguments and rule later. City Post ready for 5th All-American Marathon by Jacqueline Chambon, staff writer. Thousands of runners are expected to pound the streets through the heart of Fayetteville, Fort Bragg on Sunday during the 5th annual All-American Marathon and its sister races, the Mike to Mike Half Marathon and All-American 5K. Officials from the City and Post spoke Tuesday during a news conference at Festival Park with a focus on the partnership between the 2 entities in the planning and execution of the marathon. As you can tell from our location here in Festival Park and from the warm weather, it's time for us to move into our spring and summer activities. And one of the highlights is always the marathon, half marathon, and 5K, City Manager Doug Hewlett said. And we're so excited to be partnering again with our friends at Fort Bragg. Colonel Kyle Reed, Fort Bragg's garrison commander, called the event a great opportunity to partner. He said there are participants from all 50 states signed up to run. It's not just a military event, it is definitely a community event that takes into account representatives from across the United States, Reed said. Race Director Kimberly Tompkins and said close to 4,000 runners are expected to participate across all races on par with last year's field of more than 3,700. Tompkins anticipates a strong registration finish at the pre-race health expo and packet pickup event scheduled for Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Crown Complex. Like last year, hand cycle competitors will start Sunday's race at 6:55 a.m. and the full and half marathons will begin at 7 a.m. downtown on Ray Avenue, just outside the entrance of Festival Park. However, construction downtown has forced some changes to the early part of the route, which will start in reverse from the course used in previous years. Runners will head north on Ray Avenue toward Rowan Street, and they'll turn right and then right again on Green Street before circling the Market House and heading west on Hay Street. The route for the full and half marathons continue on Morganton, crossing onto Fort Bragg via the southbound lanes of the All-American Freeway before diverging to account for the difference in distance for the 2 races. Another major change to this year's route for the marathon is that racers will no longer make the long trek around the Post Airfield. Tompkins said this section was cut based on feedback from participants. The long and painful part that most of our runners were complaining about, seeing little to nothing on the airfield, actually taken that out of our route this year, Tompkins said. The All-American 5K, which takes place entirely on Fort Bragg, starts at 7:30 a.m. The finish line for all races is at the main post parade field. All streets that make up the race route will be closed no later than 6 a.m. Parking will be available downtown in designated lots on side streets south of Hay and Person Streets, including the Cumberland County Courthouse parking lots. Fayetteville Police Chief Gina Hawkins said more than 180 officers from across all jurisdictions will be working the event. We work very hard to make sure this is an extraordinary fun event. But stay aware, Hawkins said. We're working on safety. We're working with all the partners. See something, say something, no matter what the time period, we'll be out there. Hawkins said about 500 volunteers have signed up to help with the marathon, and that volunteers can continue to sign up through bragarmynwr.com. Hawkins also encouraged community members to cheer for runners along the race route and at the finish line. People who are not running in the races and do not have Department of Defense access to Fort Bragg will need to obtain a visitor pass to gain access ahead of the race by visiting the All-American Visitors Center beside the All-American Access Control Point. Races for all runners, the 5th annual All-American Marathon will be Sunday with thousands of runners expected to participate in the full marathon, the Mike-to-Mike half marathon, or the All-American 5K. The marathon and half marathon will both start in downtown Fayetteville and end at Fort Bragg's historic district. The 5K course will take place completely within Fort Bragg. Marathon road closures. Following roads will be closed to traffic during the All-American Marathon. Both directions of Ray Avenue between Rowan Street and Hay Street. One block of Person Street at the Market House. Both directions of Green Street. Both directions of Rowan Street between Green Street and Bragg Boulevard. Both directions of Hay Street starting at the Market House and continuing until it turns into Morganton Road. Both directions of Morganton Road from Dobbin Park to the All-American Freeway. Southbound lane of the All-American Freeway between Morganton Road and Fort Bragg. Roads closest to the starting area near Festival Park will close at 5 a.m. on Sunday, and the remaining roads will close at 6 a.m. In addition, Ray Avenue between Mason Street, the entrance to Festival Park Plaza, will be closed to traffic starting Saturday morning. Roads will reopen as the marathon course clears. And there's a picture of a runner crossing the finish line and breaking through a banner that says champion, being held by soldiers from Fort Bragg in Army fatigues. It says thousands of participants are expected to run in Sunday's All-American Marathon, Mike-to-Mike half marathon, and All-American 5K. Peter Koski was the first to complete the Mike-to-Mike half marathon last year. Continue with the Fayettville Observer in just a few moments. Continuing with Monday's Fayettville Observer, ruling the Outer Loop landowners. Dozens of Cumberland County property owners in the path of the Fayetteville Outer Loop will benefit from 3 decisions the Court of Appeals issued Tuesday, said lawyer Neil Yornborough of Fayetteville. It's a big win, Yornborough said. The rulings were issued in Forsyth County eminent domain lawsuits that the North Carolina Department of Transportation filed to take people's property for the construction of a highway around Winston-Salem. Court of Appeals on Tuesday blocked the Department of Transportation's lawsuits because prior lawsuits between the landowners and the Department of Transportation are still ongoing. Prior lawsuits also are about how much the Department of Transportation owes them for their property. The issues are the same as in eminent domain lawsuits surrounding the Fayetteville Outer Loop project, Yornborough said. Expects the Fayetteville area lawsuits to be similarly resolved. The Forsyth County cases are among numerous lawsuits between North Carolina landowners and the Department of Transportation over a law that was known as the MAP Act. The MAP Act and lawsuits surrounding it have focused on when and how the Department of Transportation can take a person's land and how much it has to pay. The MAP Act allowed the state of North Carolina to put development restrictions on land along the route of a highway without purchasing it. It was an attempt to control the purchase cost. It has been repealed. But while it was in place, property owners around the state were able to make improvements to their land and had difficulty selling it because of the restrictions. They remained caught in it for a few years. Eventually, the landowners began suing the Department of Transportation, arguing that the state owed them money for the lost value and lost use of their property. The courts had been siding with the landowners. The actual payment amounts are a point of controversy and remain in litigation. More recently, the Department of Transportation has begun filing separate lawsuits against the property owners under eminent domain. In these lawsuits, the agency is trying to buy their land so it can build roads on it. When the Department of Transportation was using the MAP Act, it was controlling their property without paying for it. Lawyers for the property owners, including Yargover, said that the new eminent domain lawsuits are inappropriate because the landowners' previous MAP Act lawsuits cover the same matters and have yet to be resolved. The Court of Appeals agreed on Tuesday. The Department of Transportation can ask the North Carolina Supreme Court to overturn the Court of Appeals ruling. The Department of Transportation spokesman on Tuesday said the agency's lawyers are revealing the rulings. And it shows the Fayetteville Outer Loop and Cliffdale Road. It says under construction, expected to open in October 2018. And between Cliffdale Road towards Rockfish, contract awarded, expected to open in May 2021. Around Rockfish, design underway, construction to begin in 2018, expected to open in 2022. And Camden Road, contract to be awarded by the end of 2017, expected to open in July 2021. And section of 295 is completed and open between All-American Freeway and Eastover. This source comes from the North Carolina Department of Transportation. It can be found at maps, the number 4news.com / copyright here. Staff writer Paul Wolverton can be reached at pwolverton at fayobserver.com by calling area code 910-486-3512. Teen shoots girl in Maryland school, killed in confrontation. By Matthew Barakat and Jesse J. Holland, The Associated Press, Great Mills, Maryland. A teenager armed with a handgun shot and critically wounded a girl inside a Maryland school on Tuesday. The shooter was killed when a school resource officer confronted him moments after the gunfire erupted. A third student was in good condition after he was shot. The shooting at Great Mills High School, a month after 17 people were killed at a Florida high school, increased calls for Congress to act on gun violence at schools. And this weekend, students across the country plan an anti-gun violence march on the nation's capital. In Maryland, it wasn't immediately clear whether the shooter took his own life or was killed by the officer's bullet. St. Mary's County Sheriff Tim Cameron said that the officer was credited with preventing any more loss of life. Authorities didn't release a motive, said they believed the girl and the shooter, 17-year-old Austin Rollins, previously had a relationship. It wasn't clear how the 14-year-old boy was wounded. The officer, who doubles as a SWAT team member, was unharmed. Politicians responded swiftly to the shooting about 65 miles southeast of Washington. We sympathize, we empathize, we have moments of silence, but we don't have action, said the number 2 U.S. House Democrat, Steny Hoyer, who represents the area in Congress. Wringing hands is not enough. In this case, appeared the shooter illegally possessed a gun in Maryland. The person must be 21 to possess a handgun, unless carrying one is required for employment. It's not clear how Rollins obtained the weapon. Attempts to reach his family were unsuccessful. One of the shooter's friends, 14-year-old Jordan Hutchison, and his mother dropped off a condolence card at the Rollins home. Jordan recalled meeting Austin 5 years ago during a snowstorm and building snow forts together. Austin was a nice kid. We did sleepovers all the time. The sheriff praised the school resource officer, Deputy First Class Blaine Gaskell, a 6-year-old veteran, and his first year at the high school, for containing the situation in less than a minute. He had to cover significant ground, Cameron said. The premise is simple. You go to the sound of gunfire. Students endured a lengthy lockdown, cowering inside classrooms in a locker room while officers worked to make sure there were no threats on campus. Police eventually kicked in the locker room door, said Sylvana Williams, a 14-year-old 9th grader. They came in with guns, and they probably thought there might be another shooter, of course, she said. An hour or two later, they came. More police came and told us they would search us and search our bags and stuff. Eventually, the students were escorted outside and taken to another school to be reunited with their parents. Senator Ben Cardin, a Democrat from Maryland, said at a minimum, universal background checks and a ban on assault-style weapons are needed. He said he believes momentum is building for reform fueled by student activism. I can tell you that Americans are listening to our students. I think our political system will respond, he said. Maryland Senate joined the House on Monday night to ban bump stocks, which enable a semi-automatic rifle to mimic a fully automatic weapon. Teachers' union leaders issued statements Tuesday saying more policies must be changed nationwide to keep schools safe. Republican Governor Larry Hogan, meanwhile, accused the Democrat-led legislature of failing to take action on one of the most aggressive school safety plans in the country. He missed $125 million for capital improvements such as secure doors and windows, metal detectors, and security cameras. It also includes another $50 million annually to pay for school resource officers, counselors, and technology. Hogan said, "It's outrageous that we haven't taken action yet, less than 3 weeks left in the session." House Speaker Michael Bush, a Democrat, said legislators have every intention of passing legislation to make schools safer. Just last month, the St. Mary's County Sheriff's Office said it assisted 2 teenage boys for threats of mass violence and a 39-year-old man on related charges after the teens made threats about a potential school shooting at Leonardtown High School. Police said they obtained a search warrant that led to them finding semi-automatic rifles, handguns, and other weapons, along with ammunition. "This is what we prepare for. This is what we pray we will never have to do," the sheriff said Tuesday. The notion that it can't happen here is no longer a notion. Opinion. Trump's weak response to attacks boosts Putin, by Trudy Rubin. Imagine if the Kremlin had authorized a murder of a prominent Russian exile in Boston, using a rare nerve gas manufactured by its military to attack NATO troops. Presumably, our country would be in an uproar. If President Trump's response to such a murder in Britain last week, which our NATO ally blames Russia, has been woefully wimpy. While the U.S. joined Britain, France, and Germany in a statement denouncing Russia, nothing was said about collective action. And while the administration announced new Russian sanctions this week, the first under this president, they were more symbolic than strong. Even when Trump finally commented on the attack, his critique of Russia was limp and half-hearted. A very sad situation, the president said. It certainly looks like the Russians were behind it. Hardly a ringing call to action. Trump never mentioned the words Putin or sanctions or election interference. Never mind that British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson said on Friday that it's overwhelmingly likely that Putin himself ordered the attack. Trump's refusal to criticize Putin or to respond to malevolent Kremlin actions has moved from the bizarre to the dangerous. Perhaps Robert Mueller will discover Trump's reasons. A special prosecutor subpoenaed files from the Trump Organization this week, including some related to Russia. But unless Trump pushes back against Putin, the Russian leader will continue to smell weakness. U.S. intelligence chiefs have warned that Russian hackers will meddle in 2018 elections. More serious is the news released Thursday that Russian cyber attacks have targeted U.S. and European nuclear power plants and water and electric systems and have the power to sabotage or shut them down. U.S. intelligence agencies have known about the hacking of utilities for months. So what is Trump's problem? Will he still nurture dreams of building a Trump Tower in Moscow? Is he beholden to Russian financiers? Or is Trump smitten with a case of autocrat envy, wishing he could operate like Putin? Whatever the reason, this country cannot afford to wait for the end of Mueller's investigation to learn why the president refuses to stand up to a Russian leader who only recognizes strength. The newly announced sanctions were against Russia's 2 main intelligence agencies and a group of individuals who worked for the Russian troll farm that hacked the election. They will have no impact on Putin. Most of the targets have already been sanctioned and or indicted by Mueller. Those indicted from the troll farm were mainly salaried employees. Nobody in the Kremlin takes these sanctions seriously, I was told by Yevgenia Albats, editor of the independent New Times magazine in Moscow. Nobody cares. Why should they? Albats said that except for Yevgeny Prigozhin, the Putin confidant who ran the troll factory, the individual on the new sanctions list, is a nobody. Last summer, a massive bipartisan vote in Congress passed harsher sanctions on Russia that was supposed to target a group of oligarchs close to Putin, affecting their overseas assets. But Trump has refused to implement those sanctions. The list has been kept secret. If the administration had gone after those oligarchs close to Putin, the Kremlin would have taken it seriously. Outlets says it didn't happen. The question is, why? An even bigger question is why Trump hasn't called for a broad government-wide strategy to counter Russian cyber malfeasance. And Lieutenant General Paul Nakasone, the nominee to run the National Security Agency and the U.S. Cyber Command, was asked at Senate confirmation hearings last month about U.S. strategy to counter Russian hacking. His answer was shocking. I would say right now they do not think much will happen to them, he responded. They don't fear us. The departing chief of the U.S. Cyber Command, Admiral Michael S. Rogers, was equally blunt in Senate testimony in February. He said U.S. efforts to counter Russian cyber attacks were insufficient. Putin has clearly come to the conclusion that there is little price to pay here, and therefore I can continue this activity, Rogers stated. And frustrated Democratic senators pressed Rogers about whether he had been authorized by Trump to do more to thwart Russian cyber operations where they originate. He responded, "No, I have not. I have been granted any additional authorities, capacity, and capability." Of course, Rogers and now Nakasone can work within the limited authority they are granted. That authority is inadequate, as even some GOP senators admit. The Nakasone hearing, Nebraska Republican Senator Ben Sasse said bluntly, "We are not responding in any way that's adequate to the challenges we face." In other words, the president is not responding. At a time when Putin is bragging about new invincible missiles aimed at America and Trump is rushing to increase America's nuclear arsenal, the president could take steps to show Putin that he isn't a patsy, like sanctioning oligarchs, like authorizing a new cyber strategy, but Trump, so far, refuses to take them. And we are left asking why. Trudy Rubin is a columnist and editorial board member for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Readers may write to her at Philadelphia Inquirer, P.O. Box 8263, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania 19101, by emailing trubin at phillynews.com. Excuse me. Local baker nails it on Netflix. Tony Bryant stood by her jelly donut with dollops of colorful icing smudged on top, trying to sell her creation to the celebrity judges of Netflix's new baking competition series, Nailed It. Her donut masterpiece was supposed to look like a treasure map, not a kindergartner's finger painting. "It's kind of Art Van Gogh," she said, nodding her head. "Yes, The judges chuckled. She clearly meant avant-garde. But the unflinching confidence and the face of defeat is part of Bryant's allure. Bryant, with her thick native New York City accent, competed on Nailed It and won $10,000, and she plans to invest in her business. The show pits 3 amateur dessert makers against each other in a baking competition. The show is reportedly inspired by clips of people who try to show off their recreations of treats they see on the internet and fail. People who appear on the show were recruited on their lack of baking abilities, Bryant said. In her episode, Bryant had to recreate a jelly-filled donut and a multiple-tier cake depicting a princess in a tower. This series is hosted by comedian Nicole Byer, and chocolatier Jacques Torres is the head judge. A baking expert serves as a third guest judge for each episode. The winner from each episode takes home $10,000. Bryant learned about the show when she came across a cryptic Instagram post looking for terrible bakers. She had been running Sugar Mamas for a few years and thought maybe the show could help her gain exposure. So, she sent in pictures of a vanilla cake that she accidentally burned, she said. She was selected and flown to California to compete on the show, which is where she learned the bake post was for the Netflix show. "I wasn't really nervous, I was super focused," Bryant said. "It was really fun." Like her path to the show, Bryant's baking career also has been an uncanny surprise. She spent almost 3 years in the Army and later worked as a bartender, waitress, and corrections officer. When she landed in Fayetteville, she picked up work where she could pride herself on being that lady in her neighborhood. You know, that lady There's always breaking up neighborhood scuffles. That lady who checks for ghosts in houses for kids while their parents are at work, and that lady who tells the moms if the kids are up to trouble. She started to notice the kids were getting in trouble for stealing candy from gas stations. So Bryant bought candy and made treats to sell from her home. She added that neighborhood candy lady to her resume. Soon, kids were coming to her house where Bryant said she was able to keep an eye on them, teach them to count change, and encourage them to keep their grades up by offering free candy for good marks. I looked out for kids while their parents were working, she said. It takes a village. It really takes a village. It really was a need that needed to be fulfilled. The business grew, so Bryant searched for a trailer as a base to sell her candy and creations. She found one in Charlotte. It only had about half the asking price. No mattress. She and her 2 daughters drove to Charlotte with cash, hoping the seller would be moved by her efforts. A major problem they didn't anticipate. The seller didn't speak English. Bryant's younger daughter, Tamiko, tapped into her school Spanish lessons and successfully secured the purchase of the trailer for $4,000. Bryant still laughs as she recalls her 10-year-old daughter taking charge in negotiations in Spanish. The trailer is parked along Murchison Road, awaiting finishing touches for an April opening. In addition to prepackaged treats, Bryant said she hopes to sell popcorn, snow cones, and soda floats. Maybe she'll get a storefront someday, she said. I just want to create a legacy, she said. Even through the rough days, Bryant said she's teaching her daughters to overcome obstacles. It might seem hard, but if you can continue on, you'll see the light at the end of the tunnel, she said. And this is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our address is P.O. Box 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please call us at area code 910-672-1600, or toll free at 1-844-709-5656. And the radio host is Robert Keating, and I am proud to serve you today. It is the top of the hour, time for the obituaries. Death notices. The following deaths have been reported. Upcoming editions of the Fayettville Observer will contain complete obituary information. Cumberland County. Patricia A. Collins, 63, of Fayetteville. Unity Funeral Services, Fayetteville. Lydia Rogers, 102, of Fayetteville. Unity Funeral Services, Fayetteville. Donald Barani, 69, of Fayetteville. Herring Funeral Care and Cremations. Della Mae McIver, 72, of Fayetteville. Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory. Bishop Tyrone Emmanuel Johnson, 60, of Hope Mills. Jernigan Ward Funeral Home. Bernard Lamont Bryant, 29, of Bun Level. Wiseman Mortuary. In the Cape Fear region, James W. Williams, 69, a resident of Universal Healthcare of Lillington, formerly of Irwin. Dafford Funeral Home, Dunn. Ward Steiner, 62, of Laurel Hill. Unity Funeral Services, Fayetteville. Junior June Fry, 80, of Carthage. Pugh and Smith Funeral Home. Jenny Mae Clark, Levener, of Gibson. Richard Boyle's Funeral Service. Henry K. Williams, 71, of Dunn. Unity Funeral Services, Fayetteville. Franklin Bo Winburn, 67, of Laurinburg. Richard Boyle's Funeral Service. Charles Robert Bell, 68, of Aberdeen. Richard Boyle's Funeral Service. Elizabeth F. Murphy, 94, Pinehurst Purcell Funeral Home, Southern Pines. Cumberland County. Adolphus J. Ngano, fondly known as Grampy, passed away at the North Carolina State Veterans Nursing Home on Saturday, March 17, 2018, at the age of 106. There will be a funeral mass on Wednesday, March 28, 2018, at 12:15 p.m. at St. Anne Catholic Church on 357 North Cool Spring Street, Fayetteville. Adolphus will be buried in Paxton, Maryland, with his wife at a later date. Retired Tech Sergeant Earl Robertson Jeffries, 81 of Fayetteville, died Friday, March 16, 2018. Funeral will be held Saturday at noon at Berean Baptist Church. Visitation will be at Berean Baptist Church from 11 a.m. to 11:45 a.m. prior to the service on Saturday. Service is entrusted to Rogers and Brees Funeral Home. Stacy Jones, 52 of Fayetteville, died Thursday, March 15, 2018. Funeral will be held Thursday at 1 p.m. at New Mission Missionary Baptist Church. The viewing will be at New Mission Baptist Church Wednesday, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Services entrusted to Wiseman Mortuary Incorporated. Eunice Trogdon Williams Hill, 93 of Fayetteville, died Tuesday, March 20th, 2018. Funeral will be held Friday at 11 a.m. at Mount Pisgah Baptist Church. The visitation will be at Sullivan's Highland Funeral Service Thursday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. The burial will be at Lafayette Memorial Park. Services entrusted to Sullivan's Highland Funeral Service and Crematory, Fayetteville. Shirley G. Woods, 82 of Fayetteville, died Friday, March 16, 2018. The funeral will be held Thursday at 12:30 p.m. at Wiseman Mortuary Chapel. The viewing will be at the funeral home Wednesday from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. The burial will be at Sand Hills State Veterans Cemetery. Services entrusted to Wiseman Mortuary. Pat Locker, 95 of Fayetteville, died Sunday, March 18, 2018. Graveside service will be held Friday at 1 p.m. at Lafayette Memorial Park West. Services entrusted to Lafayette Funeral Home. Louise Crosby White, 83 of 248 Windsor Drive of Fayetteville, died Friday, March 16, 2018. Funeral will be held Thursday at 11 a.m. at St. Luke AME Church. The viewing will be held Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and the burial will be at Lafayette Memorial Park. Services entrusted to Wiseman Mortuary. Helen R. Baldwin, 61 of Parkton, died Sunday, March 11, 2018. There will be a memorial Saturday at 2 p.m. at Pinecrest Funeral and Cremation Services of Hope Mills. Visitation will be 1 hour prior to service at the funeral home. Services entrusted to Pinecrest Funeral and Cremation Services of Hope Mills. Mr. Alfred Lennon Gillespie Jr., 38 of Fayetteville, died Friday, March 16, 2018. Funeral will be held Saturday at 1 p.m. at Colvin Funeral Home Chapel. Visitation will be at Colvin Funeral Home Chapel Friday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. and the burial will be at Rockfish Memorial Park. Services entrusted to Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory. Region and elsewhere. Timothy Wayne Stock, 53 of Clinton, died Monday, March 19, 2018. Funeral will be held Saturday at 3 p.m. at Holly Grove Holiness Church. The visitation will be at Holly Grove Holiness Church Saturday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. The burial will be at Holly Grove Holiness Church Cemetery. Services are entrusted to Crumpler Honeycutt Funeral Home. Prentice Roland Sonny Jacobs, 74, Clinton, died Tuesday, March 20th, 2018. Funeral will be held Thursday at 3 p.m. at Holly Grove Holiness Church. Visitation will be at Holly Grove Holiness Church Wednesday from 6:30 to 8 p.m. The burial will be at Holly Grove Holiness Church. Services are entrusted to Crumpler Honeycutt Funeral Home. Betty Jean Gagnon, 82 of Rayford, died Wednesday, March 14, 2018. Funeral will be held Friday at 12:30 p.m. at Rogers and Brees Funeral Home Chapel. The visitation will be at Rogers and Brees Funeral Home from 11 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. prior to the service on Friday. Burial will be at Sand Hills State Veterans Cemetery. Services are entrusted to Rogers and Brees Funeral Home. Thelma McLaurin Hurd, 80 of Christiana, Pennsylvania, formerly of Fayetteville, died Wednesday, March 14, 2018. Funeral will be held Saturday at noon at Shekinah Faith Temple International Ministries. Viewing will be at the funeral home Friday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. The burial will be at Cross Creek Cemetery number 5. Services entrusted to Herring Funeral Care and cremations. Vivian Wilson Green, 95, of Aberdeen, died Saturday, March 17, 2018 at St. Joseph of the Pines in Southern Pines. The family will receive friends from 6 to 8 p.m. Friday, March 23rd, at Boyle's Funeral Home of Pinehurst. A funeral service will be held at 11 a.m. on Saturday, March 24th at Aberdeen First Baptist Church. The Reverend Michael Branscombe and Reverend Charles Henson officiating. Interment will follow at Bethesda Cemetery. In lieu of flowers, the family suggests memorial contributions may be made to Aberdeen First Baptist Church, 700 North Sand Hills Boulevard, Aberdeen, North Carolina, 28315. Online condolences may be made at boylesfuneralhome.com. Boyle's Funeral Home of Pinehurst is serving the family. Mr. Kenneth L. Mitchell, 54, of 100 Benttree Court of Lillington, died Thursday, March 15, 2018. Funeral will be held Friday at 2 p.m. at Cameron Grove AME Zion Church on 309 Vernon Street in Broadway. The viewing will be at Dafford Funeral Home on 50 Tippett Road in Angier, Thursday from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. and the burial will be at Paradise AME Zion Church Cemetery of Broadway. Services entrusted to Dafford Funeral Home of Angier. Sybil Geary of Whiteville died Sunday, March 18, 2018. Memorial will be held Saturday at 11 a.m. at Peacock's Chapel. The burial will be at Columbus Memorial Park. Services entrusted to Peacock Funeral Home. Sophia Humphrey Moffett, 48, of St. Paul's, died Friday, March 16, 2018. Funeral will be held Wednesday at noon at New Bethel Missionary Baptist Church of St. Paul's. Viewing will be at New Bethel Missionary Baptist Church Wednesday from 11 a.m. to noon. The burial will be at Humphrey Cemetery. Services entrusted to L.E. Floyd Funeral Home and cremations. And Lois Ruby Troy, 80, of Lumberton, died Monday, March 19, 2018. Funeral will be held Sunday at 2 p.m. at Dublin Highway of Holiness Church. Visitation will be at Colvin Funeral Home Chapel Saturday from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. The burial will be at Meadowbrook Cemetery. Services are entrusted to Colvin Funeral Home. That concludes today's obituaries. Billy Graham. Death is only the beginning with Christ by our side. From the writings of the Reverend Billy Graham. The question Job asked thousands of years ago still echoes across the centuries. If someone dies, will they live again? Job chapter 14, verse 14. Death is our ultimate reality, as someone has said. The rate of death is 100% in every generation. But is death the end? Or is it merely the gateway to unending life? In response to Job's question, the Bible boldly answers, yes, we will live again. We don't have to wander in a fog of speculation or false hope, nor do we need to give in to despair or hopelessness or doubt. The reason? The reason is Jesus Christ, who by his death and resurrection proved beyond all doubt there is life beyond the grave. Now we have a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 3. This is what we celebrate at Easter. The Bible speaks of death as a departure. The Apostle Paul, since in his own approaching death, declared, the time for my departure is near. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 6. The word departure in Paul's time literally meant to pull up anchor and set sail. Just as a ship would be loaded with provisions and the voyages carefully mapped out before its departure, so our time on the earth should be spent carefully preparing for our journey into eternity. But we do not take that journey alone. Not if we put our faith and trust in Christ. Because he died and rose again, we know that death has been defeated, and ahead of us is a glorious eternity with God in heaven. Is your faith and hope in Jesus Christ? His words are true. I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. John 11:25.
Man wrestles with coming clean about his infidelity. Dear Abby, I have been married to my wife for 10 years. We have 2 beautiful daughters and have always had a great relationship. Last month I was invited to go on a trip overseas and was hesitant about asking my wife. Once I did, she immediately said yes and told me to have a good time on the trip. She recently chose a career in the military and is always from home now. While I was in Europe, I had 3 affairs. and at the time enjoyed them. But Abby, this is not the man I am. I always maintained that I never, ever do something like that, and I'm still in shock that I did. My excuse at the time was that I was used to having a woman around me, and that I was compensating for my wife's absence. While that's no excuse, I have been dealing with my guilt by shedding tears because I love my wife so much. Should I tell her what I did? I know it will never happen again, and I don't want her to resent me. Some people have told me to not say anything, while others say I should. What should I do? Hurting husband. Dear hurting husband, I don't know how many people you have confided in about this besides me, but the larger the number, the greater the chances are of word getting back to your wife about what happened in Europe. Because what happened in Europe doesn't always stay in Europe, unlike Las Vegas, the first thing you should do is be tested for STDs to guarantee you didn't bring an unwanted souvenir home with you. If you are clean, discuss this with your religious advisor if you have one. Justify it however you may wish, but what you did in Europe was a moral failure. Because of her military career, your wife may have to be absent for various periods of time. How would you feel if the situation was reversed and she had numerous affairs while she was gone? It may be time for both of you to recommit to each other if your marriage is to survive. And the place to start is to be honest with each other, but not while your wife is deployed. Dear Abby, my husband's 45-year-old sister-in-law recently got a boob job. She's a professional woman who used to be very conservative. Now she comes to family dinners wearing clingy, low-cut shirts that really leave little to the imagination. My husband's teenager sons and I are uncomfortable. Does she want us to comment on them? She clearly wants them noticed based on her attire. I'd ask her to cover up, but is that appropriate? She's very easily offended. If I do, it will likely to be our last conversation. Embarrassed in Montana. Dear Embarrassed, while it would be nice if you could talk to your sister-in-law about this, because you can't, I'll offer another solution. When she's coming for dinner, crank the thermostat way down, and if she indicates that she's chilly, offer her a sweater. Problem solved.
Horoscope tonight. Stella Wilder. One today, you're something of a comedian. You can alter your behavior, your speech, and even your looks to a certain extent in order to promote your agenda and get what you want. You're often a whirlwind of activity known for having many irons in the fire. Aries, March 21st through April 19th. You're waiting for just the right situation to evolve before taking action. You must be patient and willing to revise your plan. Taurus, April 20th through May 20th. You have to jog your memory a bit, but once you access a certain episode from your past, there should be nothing stopping you today. Gemini, May 21st through June 20th. The demands being made on your energy today would tax anyone, and you must be willing to tell someone when enough is enough. Cancer, June 21st through July 22nd. Someone whom you admire may be under attack today, but is there anything you can do right now? You don't want to make things worse. Leo, July 23rd through August 22nd. If you receive an invitation that confuses you somewhat, as it is in direct conflict with information you received not long ago. Virgo, August 23rd through September 22nd. You must keep things squarely in mind as you navigate the day, lest you forget the one thing that makes everything else coherent. Libra, September 23rd through October 22nd. Spend as much time as necessary tending to routine matters. There is something out of the ordinary that will demand your attention. Scorpio, October 23rd through November 21st. You may have to change your tune a bit today when someone alerts